Hello there. Welcome back to another day where I have some free time. And in this day's video in nobita.h, we'll be starting on the cross-platform feature of nobita.h. But, well, I do not have a Windows machine that is, well, in a usable state for a video, since when I run OBS on it, it runs out of memory. So I just tried to install MSVC here on Linux using a script, and it will run via Wine. And I think, yes, I do have it here. Well, I was trying to get it to work earlier, and here we are now. Well, I wasn't, and hopefully I'm able to make it work in this video when I'm recording now. First order of business is to get the Clang daemon to recognize the Visual Studio headers. So I gotta edit the compile flags first and say that there's no standard includes, I guess, the standard library as well. Remove the standard and add the include paths. So it's in /alt msvc, and the first one is in msvc itself for the includes. Next up is the Windows kit. The following includes first is the UM1, the Universal C runtime, the Win runtime, and shared. And I think that should be it. So let's try editing the header file now. Well, considering that it is erroring out, and if I try to go to the definition of assert, definitely this is not the normal assert for the POSIX standard since Microsoft is here. And win32 is not yet defined. So I gotta add that as well. Define win32. So gotta restart the Clang daemon there. And let's start with the includes. First is, well, defining, I think it was win32, lean and mean, and including windows.h. Oh, all right, it's lean and mean. And then getting the Windows specific stuff here, like the path separator being a backslash, the executables extension is exe, the shared library is adll, and I think the static library is a .lib. Now, for the process ID type, I don't really know. Thus, I have some pre-open tabs here in the wait for single object function, which takes a handle for the process and how long to wait for it. So the process ID is just a handle. Now, next would be the get current working directory, our implementation of that. And well, I think they have a way to get the buffer size. Yeah, pass in null and set the parameter of that to 0. So let's do our own macros here for now. Else and if win32. And in here, return shall be null and malloc. I think we can just malloc that here and use the get current directory A, the buffer length being 0 and the output is null. And if win32 is defined, win32, then we can add an else clause here, which would actually run get current directory A with, I don't really know the length of this, so I guess I should store it as well on, well, it outputs an integer. So len equals this. And same thing over here, and output to return. Now, it looks messy, but I think it should work. Next up is the get module file name, which is our replacement for the current executables directory. Well, hopefully. So we can keep return and wrap this with if not defined. And if win32. Now, how should I go about this? Since I feel like this does not return the actual length for the path string if given null, let's see. The return value. If the function succeeds, the return value is the length of a string that is copied to the buffer, not including the terminating null character. If the buffer is too small to hold the to hold the module name, the string is truncated to n size, including the terminating null character, then returns n size, and sets the last error to insufficient buffer. Now, I think we can just do the same trick with what we've done here, maybe. And we can just change the directory. So, gotta search that up. win32, change directory. But did they actually implement this one? Generates a compiler warning. Hmm. Well, I guess we can just do this, paste it, and run the change directory. Or I think it would actually still work even without this. But here's their dupe. Their name is already set. So bye-bye for this one. Now the big parts is the create process. So in proc append, well, mainly proc exec, which now takes the joined command and what else? Well, the function definition of this as well. We can wrap this up in if def win32 and else and if. Now if it's proc exec and join command, now how would this work since there's a lot of stuff here? So create process A. So the application name, well, it can be null, but what would be executed is the one in the command line, which is our joined CMD. The security attributes, I think this can just be 0, maybe. Oh, it's null. So more nulls. And then inherit handles. Hmm. I guess set at false, maybe. Creation flags. If it has a value of 0, the environment, well, that can be null as well. What else? The current directory, well, null. Startup info, hmm, what is this startup info thing? I do not know, surprisingly. But what is the output for now? a process information. So set this to null for now. Give it a marker. And process information. Might as well just call it P. And I guess we can set its stuff to 0. Okay. Now, well, the process ID is what we want, I guess. So after create process, ID shall become this one. Now, what else does this thing contain? Process ID, thread ID, and or maybe it's H process, the handle for the process. And put P in here. Or, well, I'm getting tempted to search for an example usage of this thing, to be honest. So I will. So let's see. What is their official thing? So their startup info. So they created that as well, which is the second to last one. So let's call that S. And they zeroed the memory of both. So, but the startup info, um, the CB value is the size of what now? Itself? And that's surprising. And then what? The command line, then null, set the handle inheritance to false, creation flags is 0, null, and the address of both S and P. And we can wait for the single object, which we'll do later on, and close the process. Though, if this is false, we'll return -1, else return this one. And nobita PID is only relevant for this part, but I guess that is fine. Now for the next part is actually waiting. If not defined, win32, else, and if once more, win32. Now, what can we do? Wait for single object and set the status of the output for this one, I think. Since, well, if it returns 0, then the object successfully exited. If it failed, well, there's this one. So wait for single object, and well, it needs the PID, and how many milliseconds would it wait for? So if pause is true, it says infinity to wait until it actually finishes. And if not, then I guess I just want it to wait for 500 milliseconds. Or maybe, but if I set it to 0, what would happen? Well, if it's 0, the function does not enter a wait state if the object is not signal and it returns immediately. But what would it return if the milliseconds is 0? The timeout interval elapsed and the object state is non-signaled. Well, I do hope that's what it would say if I set it to 0. Now in proc append, well, in here, I guess it's time to create the thing. I said I do not see a way to use the vector type of stir join, but now it's time for it to happen. So the vector one, just a double array of the vector. And the implementation would just be after this one. So first of all, the return is null, a copy of v2, and the length of the string initialized to 1 for the null byte. Now we can do that while v is not equal to null, it can add its length, stir len to len, so v, then increment v by 1 and check if it's not equal to null, then add the length of the joining character. No, the joining string. That should do it. Now return shall get malloc of len, and I can copy the fail if statement here, but instead of star join L, star join V. And the same while loop can go here, but V shall be V2, and the first byte of return shall be a null byte. So star cat can go directly to return. Now back in proc append, well, instead of a while true over here, we can just run star join L, no, V with a space over the command vector, which is now terminated. Run printf on this thing. C. Well, only if it's not null. But if it is null, set nobita build failed to true. And now that we have more things here, then maybe in nobita build, I guess I can add the command names as well, so I can have more info if it failed or not. So initialize this in main. I'm getting sidetracked, but it might be worth it. And I gotta free this as well. Now in proc append, I also should add this to that array, well, that vector. Append b proc names c. Well, vector append already fails if build failed is true, so I did not need that if statement. But for the definition of proc names, I think I did not do that correctly. Yes, I did not. That should be a double character pointer. Now the thing would go to wait all and wait one. So this would be wrapped up in if not defined. Win32 and else and if. Now the status would be not -1 and it's not timeout. Or maybe wait object 0. So status is equal to that. That would be its signal. Now its handle though now that I'm thinking about it, I think I did not need this one, nor to switch this. I just needed to move the last part to where it is and decrement it by 1. But for the process name, that's where things go badly. But we can add another print here for the actual command that run, which is from b proc names I. And after that, we can do the same thing here with q will become names. But first, I gotta free the proc names first for that current index. Maybe it only differs at the top of the if statement over here and over here. Now let's see. Since I don't think I'm doing this part right yet. So win32 for this check over here. But the check is something else. Not exit status or that one, but the wait failed. So status is equal to wait failed. Well, it's already past 30 minutes. So maybe it's a good time to cut this for now. And in the next part, we'll be continuing on with the process stuff in the Windows API. So thank you for sticking with me this far, and may I see you on the next part.